Hello, this is Crystal Stanich, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading Welcome to the Pineaway Motel and Cabins by Katarina Bivold. I hope you enjoy. Here is Henny's Sand. My funeral begins in an hour. I'm pretty sure I'm going to miss it. Right now, I'm sitting on the motel rooftop, looking down on an almost empty parking lot. I imagine myself floating through the air, higher and higher, as if I've finally gotten the hang of flying. So high that everyone is nothing but tiny black dots, making their way to the Pine Creek United Methodist Church. Dad is probably already there, waiting patiently inside, an especially black dot on my own internal map. Cheryl will be with him, no doubt, like the supportive Christian neighbor that she is. I tried to be angry with the two of them, but I don't seem to have the energy anymore. Before long, they'll be joined by friends and former classmates, vague acquaintances, teachers I once had, Dad's neighbors, a confident guess at who will attend a funeral in Pine Creek. Everyone. They'll try to sing along to old-fashioned hymns, and they'll listen to the pastor's empty eulogy. Dad will be sitting at the front, brave and desperately proper. And then I'll be cremated. A rather bold and surprising choice from Dad. I approve, but I'm apprehensive as well. On the one hand, I'd rather burst into flames than be shoved underground. I've always been a little bit afraid of the dark. But on the other hand, I worry that this, what's left of me, my soul or consciousness or whatever you want to call it, will disappear when my body does. I don't think you can go on being a ghost forever, no matter how much you want to. There'd be more of us around if you could, that's for sure. Maybe most people never even get the chance to stick around and see how their loved ones are doing. Maybe I should be grateful for the opportunity. I'm talking about smoke and picturing myself engulfed in a wall of flames. But that's not how it works. The body, my body, will be heated through calcination. Everything organic, roughly 97% of me, will first turn to liquid and then become hot gas. They'll add oxygen so that the body can burn entirely without flames. All that will be left of me is ash. Surely no soul can survive that. Ash is actually a pretty misleading word. It's not like a fine ash automatically appears afterward, ready to be stirred in an urn or buried under a headstone or sprinkled somewhere. Whatever Dad plans to do with it. You need a special processor to grind the remains into a kind of fine-grained sand. But I don't think that has quite the same ring to it. For the relatives, I mean. Here is Henny Sand. The whole process takes around 2 hours. I wish I knew exactly when everything was going to happen, so that I could prepare myself. It would be awful to disappear mid-thought, or be thinking something completely meaningless when it happened. I wonder what time it is. And then nothing. No, I want my very lost thought to be grand and beautiful and important. A final message, even if I'm the only one who hears it. Below me, the motel is closed for the first time since a snowstorm left us without power for 3 days in 2003. The reception area is dark. The computers switched off. The restaurant is eerily empty, all the chairs upside down on the tables. The rooms are locked. Only 2 cars are there, Camilla's and Mackenzie's. On the other side of the parking lot, the Pine Creek Motel sign glows faintly in the daylight. Vacancy S. The E has stopped working. Beneath that is a patchwork of strange little signs made from cheap metal, in all imaginable sizes, colors, and styles. Vacant rooms, cabins, forest views, microwaves in every room, air conditioning, now with color TV, restaurant, bar, pool, open, vote no on Measure 9. Oregon, proud home of anti-gay ballot measures since 1992. Mackenzie added the last two. Chapter 1. Caucasian female, 33 years old. My very last thought alive. Michael's body. I was thinking Michael's body. Michael's body. Michael's body. As if repeating a miracle I still didn't quite believe in. Every detail on the road was familiar to me, and yet they all felt magically new, as though I was seeing them for the first time. The asphalt, which looked even more worn out in the afternoon sunshine, the gravel at the sides of the road, the sweet scent of pines. I was smiling. I know that. I had been smiling the entire weekend. The next thing I remember is standing there on the road, feeling slightly bewildered, looking at a strange heap some 20 feet away. At first, all I feel is a vague sense of curiosity. I don't realize it's a body, and the idea that it could be human doesn't even cross my mind. It's only as I get closer that I can make out a right leg, unmistakably human, bent at an unnatural angle. While that initial shock is still sinking in, I recognize my good jeans and what's left of my favorite blouse. The bright red polka dots are clear enough, but I'll never be able to get the rest of it white again. I don't recognize my hair. The pale brown strands are mixed with gravel and engine oil and what I guess must be blood. My left arm is sticking straight out from the body, and my right arm is missing. Instinctively, I look down at my own right side, but my arm is still there. Up ahead, a truck is straddling both lanes of the road. A man in his 40s is leaning against the right-hand side of the hood. His eyes are fixed on the ground, and it looks like his knees are about to give way beneath him. He takes 2 unsteady steps toward the edge of the road, where he bends down over the ferns. I look away when he starts throwing up. Somehow, he manages to make it back to the truck without falling apart. He's slim, his shirt a little too big for him, and his hands are shaking as he pulls out his phone and calls the police. Accident. Pine Creek, near the motel, just after the exit. 1 injured. We're alone here among the pines. He rocks back and forth as he mumbles to himself, and I can't think of a single thing I can do to help. I try patting him on the shoulder, awkwardly and apologetically, but it doesn't make much difference. Then I hear what he is saying. It's like some kind of mantra, over and over again. Don't be dead. Don't be dead. Don't be dead. Just 15 minutes ago, I was head over heels happy. I'm thinking about that as though happiness should be some kind of shield against being mowed down by a truck. And I'm thinking about how quiet everything is around us, as if nothing bad could ever happen on this old road. This is a nightmare. That's all it is. Any minute now, I'll wake up in the redwood cabin and be fascinated by how such a familiar room can look so different when you're lying on your back in it. Before I open my eyes, I'll reach out to check if Michael's body is still there beside me. Then I'll smile when it is. Providing everything with Michael even happened, of course. If all this is just a dream, then maybe Michael was too. Maybe I'll wake up in my own bed, alone again, and get back to cleaning motel rooms as usual. The truck driver stops mumbling to himself, but that just makes things worse. He stops rocking too. Instead, he starts shaking. When Sheriff Ed Carmichael arrives, I run toward him, relieved. I want to grab hold of his arm, harder than I've ever grabbed anything before, and force him to walk faster, do something. Sheriff Ed will know what needs to be done, I think. He's the third generation of Carmichaels to be sheriff here. When he started at the sheriff's office, both his grandpa and father were still alive. He dealt with that the way he dealt with everything else in his line of work, stoically, with valiant patience and calm competence. I didn't think anything could shock him, but I was wrong. Jesus, he says, that's Henny Burke. He calls for an ambulance first, then the state troopers, who promise to send a couple of cars as soon as they can. Sheriff Ed turns to the truck driver. He asks some routine questions about the man's name, driver's license, and registration, and then moves on to what happened. I didn't see her. She just stepped out into the road and I tried to brake, but... The truck driver starts rocking again and shaking. The sheriff fetches a blanket from the trunk of his patrol car, wraps it around the man's shoulders, and guides him over to the back seat. The state troopers will be here soon, he says. They're going to take you down to the station. They'll need to take some samples. Breath, urine, blood. Do you understand? They have to do all that. Sheriff Ed studies the truck driver as he talks. Maybe he's looking for signs of intoxication. Maybe his work as a sheriff has made him suspicious. But I'm pretty sure it happened just like the driver said. I was thinking about Michael. I was happy, my body high on adrenaline and exhausted from too little sleep. And suddenly I was lying in the middle of the road. Penny Berwick, the sheriff says with a shake of his head. She was always such a good girl. The ambulance is the first to arrive. At the sheriff's request, paramedics give the truck driver a quick, uninterested once-over, and then they move on to me. Not that there seems to be much they can do. They cover my body and lift it into the ambulance. The state troopers arrive just as they are leaving. Their sirens sound muted even when they're right next to us, and I blink at the revolving, psychedelic blue lights. Fragments of conversation. What a waste. Do you think he was drunk? The state troopers are strong and tough, and they all look incredibly young. The commanding officer walks over to Sheriff Ed, while the two others set up a detour when a flashing sign reads, "Lane closed." A car passes, slowing down so the driver can take in as much as possible, and I feel embarrassed by all the fuss. I never meant to cause this much trouble, I think. "Sir," says the commanding officer, as their sirens fall silent. I can hear the sound of the yellow and black plastic tape flopping in the wind. "Did you know the deceased, sir?" The deceased. "Henny Berwick," the sheriff replies automatically. "Caucasian female, 33 years old. Works at Pine Creek Motel and Cabins." He nods down the road toward the motel. "Worked, sir." "Huh?" "Yeah, right. She was in charge of the motel, along with Mackenzie Jones. They both lived there. The motel has 3 cabins nearby, so I'm guessing she was on her way to or from one of them. I'd say, given the direction the truck was traveling. The driver's name is Paul Jackson, resident of Pine Creek. Says she ran into the road without looking. He tried to brake, didn't make it. The deceased. The deceased. The deceased. I fight the urge to laugh. Mackenzie and Henny manage the motel, but they don't own it. The owner doesn't live in town anymore. For a cheap motel, it's a pretty good place. Not much trouble. They have to kick out difficult guests from time to time, but that's all. Nothing unusual. The state trooper doesn't come out and say he doesn't care about the motel, but I can tell he's thinking it. And next of kin, sir? Just her father. Lives at 17 Water Street. Her mom's been dead a long time. Maybe just as well. the trooper says, and Sheriff Ed pulls a face. So this is what it's like to be dead, I think. Shouldn't there be, I don't know, more to it? Should I really be able to stand here on the road beneath the trees, smelling the same old dusty asphalt, pine needles, and ferns? Not that the trees care about what happened to me. They were here long before I came along, and they'll be here a long time after me. What I did during my short life doesn't matter to them. Not how it ended, either. You want me to inform her father? Sheriff Ed asks. That might be best, sir, the trooper replies, sounding relieved. Better if it comes from someone he knows. Sometimes I really hate my job, Sheriff Ed says, sighing wearily. And that is the end of Chapter 1 of Welcome to the Pineaway Motel and Cabins by Katarina Bivold. If you would like to know what happens next, please check out the book on the Hoopla app. If you have any questions, feel free to email the library at info@nchcpl.org. Thank you and have a great day.